Hello, my friends. Luiz Lima here, broadcasting from Orlando, Florida. We are on Kardec Radio. Thanks for joining us. This is Spiritism, a closer look, our weekly program every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So, thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight, we are going to take a closer look at moral and intellectual faculties. This is actually part of the codification. It is in the Spirit's book. It's on chapter 7 of part 2. Within chapter 7, there's a subtitle called The Moral and Intellectual Faculties of Humankind. And then we have a set of questions. It goes from question 361 through question 366. So what we're gonna do here tonight is take a peek at some of these questions extracted from the chapter, and we're gonna make some comments. We're gonna bring up for discussion here, and it's a pretty interesting chapter actually, and I think it has a lot of messages underlying, the original spirit's responses to all these questions. So let's just go ahead and get started here. So the first question that I selected is question 361. Allan Kardec asks the spirits, where do a person's good or evil moral qualities come from? All right, so in simple words, what makes a person be good or not? What makes a person be good or evil? That's basically what the question is. The answer from the spirits is they reflect the qualities of the incarnate spirit. The purer the spirit, the more the person is inclined towards the good. Okay, so first first thing that we take home from the answer is the quality belongs to the spirit. The quality does not belong to the brain, to anything material, anything else. It is part of the spirit. And then they continue, the purer the spirit, the more inclined to be a good person that individual would be. I'm going to bring something that we have discussed a few times. We have used this before. Let me just position things better on the screen for you here. This is the what we call the spirit scale. We have discussed this at length in the past. You can always go back to our YouTube or even Kardec Radio's Facebook. You're going to find one or two programs, especially on this, on the spirit scale, also called the Spiritist hierarchy. So anyway, this shows in colors, in shades of colors, right? Spirits from impure, which are the least advanced ones, all the way up to pure spirits, the perfect ones, those who have reached perfection. If we go back to the answer that the spirits gives us is the purer the spirit, meaning on the scale, the higher on the scale, the person is, it is more prone to do good. Those are the spirits in shades of green here on your screen, and the blue ones, pure. Those are prone to do good all the time. The others, the shades of red, those are spirits that try to do evil most of the time, if not all the time. For those all the way down on the scale, impure and frivolous, those are spirits that comprising in they're happy about doing evil things all the time. So a few things that we can read from the answer. First of all, the spirit has these qualities, good or evil. The spirit is the repository of vices and virtues. It houses all of our vices and all of our virtues. This is not something that belongs to the brain, cells, organs, nothing. It is the spirit itself, the intelligent principle. So more advanced spirits will have better qualities, will have more virtues than vices. Very scales that are very low on the scale, spirits that are very low on the scale down, they will have a lot more vices that they'll have to overcome than virtues. So spirits on the top, green ones, are the good spirits, also called second order spirits. Spirits in shades of red are considered third order spirits, also called imperfect spirits. So, anyway, from this first question, what we understand is virtues and vices are in the spirit. That makes a person, an incarnate spirit, be good or evil. So, it comes from the spirit. Here's another question subsequent to that one. So Allan Kardec says this or asks this. So a moral person is the incarnation of a good spirit, and a cruel person that of an evil spirit? Interesting question, right? That follows the previous answer. And the answer is yes, meaning a moral person, more advanced person will incarnate as a good spirit. A cruel person will incarnate as an evil spirit. And the spirits make a comment. They say, it would be better to say an imperfect spirit rather than evil spirit. Otherwise, one might believe in spirits who will always remain evil, those you call demons. So if we refer to a spirit as an evil spirit, in certain cases, when you're talking about it, it's pretty clear what you want to see. In this particular answer, they wanted to make a correction in the vocabulary to make it more understandable that if you call evil spirits, some people can read the idea that these spirits will remain evil forever and ever. That's not the case. That's why they suggest using the word imperfect spirits instead of evil spirits. So, perfect spirits are the blue ones on the scale. They don't have any imperfection. So, obviously, they are always good. Imperfect spirits, the red ones, they will have to, work on their things. Some of them, lower on the scale, are very cruel people when they incarnate because that's what the spirit is. The body is just a representation of morality on the material plane. Okay, let's do one more question here. Question 362. What is the character of the individuals in whom frivolous and foolish spirits are incarnated? Right, so he's talking about the spirits who are very low on the scale. What kind of character they bring? The answer is they are thoughtless, cunning, and sometimes malicious beings. That's what the red spirits are on the bottom of the scale. The two bottom ones, frivolous and impure, that's what they are. Thoughtless, they do evil things all the time. They don't measure consequences of what they do. They not that they don't measure, they cannot even foresee that there are consequences in their actions. So, they end up at one point, they end up being victims of themselves because they got to offset the wrongdoings. And who did wrong? They did. So they become victims of themselves. Actually, all of us who were at one point down on the scale, and still, wherever we are on the scale, we are always victims of ourselves until we become good spirits and pure spirits. So again, the third order spirits are the ones in red, also called imperfect spirits, meaning there's a lot of work to be done. By the way, these spirits, they need a house, all right? They need to be somewhere in a planet. Planets like ours, Earth, is one of the planets that houses third order spirits. So mostly the population of a population includes, in this case, incarnate and discarnate spirits, all of us, 25, 28 billion. So mostly we are imperfect spirits, third order. Let's bring up another question. Question 364. Is it one and the same spirit who gives an individual his or her moral and intellectual quality? That's an interesting question, right? Is it only one spirit or are more than one spirit? You know, that's an interesting question. So the answer is certainly it is one and the same, and such qualities will depend on the degree of the spirit's evolution. Individuals do not have two spirits within them. Okay, that can generate some questions, some additional explanation here. How many times in popular language, I would say, we refer to people, switching moods and stuff like that. We say, oh, this guy's got dual personality, or, one day is this way, next day is completely different. They might be under the influence of another spirit, a discarnate spirit. They might be undergoing an obsessive process, spiritually speaking. So it could be that they have one or even several um, discarnate spirits preying on that one. However, though these spirits that prey on him, they do not they do not control the process entirely. They will create heavy, at times, influences on the incarnated spirit. So influences might shift, at least temporarily, moral and intellectual qualities, but it's only one spirit that operates per se, uh, one body. There is no two of them. Influences, yes, but being the owner per se, if you will, of a physical body, no, never. And let me bring another question here. 365, that's interesting too. Why are the most intelligent individuals who display a highly evolved spirit incarnated in them, sometimes and at the time extremely cruel? Meaning, the question is, some people are extremely intelligent, but sometimes they are extremely cruel at the same time. How can that be? How can that be? How can they be so intelligent but so cruel at times? And we see this a lot. If you revisit the history of humanity, you're gonna find brilliant minds in terms of intelligence, putting together crimes, horrible crimes and wars and stuff like that. But they are still very intelligent people. They just use their intelligence for evil. So here's what the spirit says. The incarnate spirit, in this case, is not sufficiently purified. Meaning, if you look at the spirit scale, they are on the lower part of the scale. They're not enough, not sufficiently purified. Also, they continue, also because the persons yields to the influence of other spirits who are even worse. That's what I was saying. The spirits prey on those who, yield to the influence, those who allow for. Influences are always 100% of the time a partnership. You can allow the partnership to go on, or you can just say, that's it, I'm done. Get out of here. I don't want you to be my partner anymore. How do I do that? You don't write this, you don't say it. You change your thoughts, you change your mental state. And these guys are just going to disappear because, they don't want you to be on a different state of mind. They want you to stay on that state of mind so they can prey on you. So again, it's a choice. It's a choice that we can make, all of us. So the answer continues here. They say the spirit progresses in an imperceptible ascending forward progression, but this progress is not accomplished simultaneously in all senses. During one period, a spirit may advance in knowledge, during another, in morality. And this is one of the great points, one of the great explanations that Spiritism provides for the current state of the world, if you will, humanity in general. I'm talking about society in general. You see, we that's actually one of the questions when Allan Kardec has a chapter for the law of progress. He will ask the spirits, what comes first, intellectual progress or moral progress? And the answer is intellectual, because then you're smart enough to make better choices. That's the answer. So intellectual progress, knowledge comes first, and then morality. And look at what they're saying here, that at times we come in for advancing knowledge and nothing in morality. Other times we come to advance morality, maybe nothing in knowledge. And sometimes it's a mix in different percents, if you will. Think of a mathematic. So here's an interesting situation. Just the other day, I was talking to somebody in a spirit center, about this progress, moral progress, intellectual progress. We were just going over some of the answers that the spirits were giving us. And then I said, think about something. Moral progress comes after intellectual progress. And sometimes we do intellectual progress only. Sometimes we stop that to do moral progress. And then something occurred to me. That's my personal opinion, by the way. I think it's common sense almost across the world that the new generations are not as, at least that's the impression that the world has, all societies, that the new generations are not as intellectually, you know, uh, uh, I would say the assessment of intellectuality doesn't compare to what we had in the past. That's a general impression. We hear this everywhere. That's not me, that's people talking in general. It looks like the new generations are not so smart. They can't learn, they don't want to learn. It's just different than 2 or 3 generations ago, maybe one generation ago. So, I said to this person, think about this. If the intellectual progress is signaling that it's slowing down, and that seems to be the case, that brings the next thing, which is maybe it's time where moral progress is going to start increasing. So we're about to stop, per se, not stop completely zero, but just in terms of a concept, to stop advancing in knowledge for a while and advance in morality for the time being. Because our moral standards, when I say our, I'm talking about humanity, 25 billion spirits living on earth, 8 billion incarnate. Morality is right now very challenging, very challenging. However, knowledge is all the way up there. Can you imagine technology alone, shows us where we've been. And now with the latest AI, artificial intelligence, we're doing things that were unimaginable, I would say 20 years ago, let alone 100 years ago, 2 generations ago. You know, it's incredible the amount of progress that has been going on, and the fast pace that this is going intellectually. But then the new generation is kind of not following it anymore. That's interesting. So maybe it's time that moral progress is going to start rising up. The curve for moral progress is going to raise. That would be absolutely awesome because we need that. We need that. We need more morality standards to raise among humanity so we can get up on the scale. So we don't stay in the bottom as red third water spirits forever and ever. It's never forever and ever, but that we can just, collectively raise the moral standards of the planet. That would be what we call the regeneration of the planet. So we would leave the status of trials and expiations and acquire per se another status, which is the next level up, a world of regeneration. A world of regeneration requires, absolutely requires, demands moral standards to be higher than what they are now. Much, much, much higher. So for this to take place, for morality to raise per se, spirits that are on the lower part of the scale cannot be among us anymore. They will have to be, taken somewhere else, to another planet, to another orb. However, for this to take place, they have to incarnate first because all the next incarnations of the spirits waiting out there is already planned. It's just a matter of having the chance and the opportunity, to actually physically incarnate. So the morality of the spirits that are waiting for an opportunity to incarnate is also red. They are also imperfect spirits. So these spirits would incarnate. They would have their opportunity. If they don't make it, if they don't reach the minimum standards, they will have to be sent somewhere else. And that would kind of clean the psychic atmosphere of the planet. If that's the case, then think about this. It has to be worse before it gets better. Things have to get worse with these spirits incarnating here before it gets better when they are sent out somewhere else. And we, at least, there's a general consensus that this is happening. There's a general agreement that things are getting worse. Not necessarily. It's a perception, not a fact. Don't mix things up. But there's a general perception that things are getting worse because we have more spirits incarnating, and the level of morality is not of any planet that is in the third level regeneration. So anyway, I think the chapter is very interesting. Like I said, it goes from questions 361 through 366. We brought some of them here, parts of these questions, but I think it explains what's going on. That's why, during my talk, I left the spiritist scale here so we can follow along. But really, I encourage you to go back to the two videos that we did, the two talks that we did about the spirit scale. There's a lot more than what I just said. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today. And remember, we will be here next Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Spiritism, a closer look. Be well.